The rumor come out, does Bruno Mars is gay? Bruno Mars is gay is the most discussed in the media in the few years ago. Even it has happened in 2012, but some of the public's still curious about what is exactly happening and to be the reason there was a rumor comes out about his gay. At that time, he became the massive social networking rumor. The public, especially his fans, are shocked. He just came out with his bad rumor, which has spread massively. This time is not about his music career, but his bad rumor. The rumor is out of standardized of hoax. According to the last reported, this singer revealed himself as homosexual. Do you still believe or not? This rumor is really much talked by people, even in a person of his fans. This rumor comes out to the public and to be sub-news topic in the Chicago radio station. According to a CNN report, he makes the confession that he is a gay. Believe or not, but at this time he said that confession, it was Sunday, 1st April, which is called as April Mob or April Fool's Day. At that moment, he also talked well that he did not make a joke. He just said that the timing is bad. I had not realized that it was April Mob, but it has just been pointed out of myself. I do not want to go too public with this, as mentioned in CNN report he just said. The word of too public makes some people curious in the studio. He was incredibly sad and ashamed of his confession. He is a talented singer and musician, but everything can be ruined rapidly with the rumor that Bruno Mars is gay. The public is already smashed with the rumor, which is hung on their mind. The
when am I
rumor
supposed
became
to
the
cut in
trending
here?
topic on Twitter at that time. Especially women fans. They are really disappointed of his confession of joy.
I think we should just end it right here.
However, everything goes
we're
well
already
as
going
normal
way
at the
downhill.
first time because he came back with his new confession that the rumor was a lie. In fact, Bruno Mars is a success to tricked of lots of people and made him as the trending topic for worldwide. Bruno Mars is gay is just a hoax.
All right, well, this is Hollywood Gossip.
If it is
podcast
happening
now.
for real and Bruno Mars is gay for sure, his career might be terrible in the future. Unfortunately, the fans are already criticized in the media that give a confession as a guy in his bright career is a big fault, and to be a guy is a bad thing to be exposed in the media. In fact, he is not a guy, and he admires women as the beautiful thing in the world. It is shown through his first single of his second album of Unorthodox Jukebox, which is entitled Lock Out the Heaven. The song has truly got inspiration by Halle Berry.
Well,
He
this is
admits
2
that
minutes of this
this
now.
is true, and he just thought that his fiance is not offended by Bruno Mars' lyric. Now everything is clear enough, and this is not true about Bruno Mars is gay.
Is that the end? Hi. Well, this is already going way downhill. Should we just
No, it's not.
Should we just call it here?
No.
Call it a day?
No, I just felt like reading that.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
In its entirety. Verbatim.
Are we going to get like copyright striked for that now?
No, it's a news article. That's protected. Here, watch. That was a strange article, wasn't it?
Well, I'm assuming it was just like written by an AI or something. Is that the
Probably.
catch?
I don't know. Bottom line, we've now discussed it and criticized it. Now it's protected by our First Amendment rights.
All right then.
So there.
Well, how do we even get on topic from here? What is our topic today?
Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing.
It's a comic that was made in the 70s.
70s.
And
yeah,
we're
so
going to...
Bronze Age comic. Or we're talking about the first 13 issues specifically, which is the Len Wein? How do you pronounce it? Len Wein. The Len Wein Run. He wrote the first 13 issues.
Yeah. Although I should say, welcome to what is probably the actual first episode of the podcast. We've got our microphones figured out. We've got the hookup set up. We figured out how to play sound without having to play it directly into a microphone, which makes it all choppy. So hopefully you took our advice and are watching this episode first, because the other two episodes are full of issues. But also, if you did that, shame on you, because you're not watching everything in order.
Do with that what you will. So,
I mean, they'll have to. We're not going to publish. We're going to publish these in order.
Oh yeah. Well, anyways,
the third time's the charm, as they say, and I think we finally figured it all out. It's finally happening. And it won't be annoying to listen to.
All right. So I guess, anyways, let's talk about our personal backgrounds with this series a little bit before we dive into the discussion.
It's my favorite comic.
And it's quickly becoming one of mine, which, I mean, to be fair, I haven't read nearly as many comics as you have.
No.
Yeah, I don't have literally walls in my room covered with filing cabinets for comic books. I have about one shelf in my closet with a few trade paperbacks on it, and that's about the extent of my collection. But
also, I'm pretty sure a large portion of that collection keeps coming from Christmas gifts and birthday gifts.
From you, yeah, that is true.
That's my goal in life, is if other people like comic books, I'm going to make sure their collections have stuff in it.
Yeah.
Make sure everyone should read comics.
Anyways, but yeah, it's quickly becoming one of my favorite comics. And, I think actually kind of indirectly I'm the reason you ended up reading this comic because...
Am I? Oh, wait,
yeah,
are you?
Yeah, well, remember I read Watchmen back in high school and absolutely
Yes.
loved it. And so then I went looking for Alan Moore's other work, including like V for Vendetta, and then I found out he did a run of Swamp Thing. So that led me
Yeah.
to go on like eBay or whatever and buy a few of his trade paperbacks. Started reading those. Didn't get very far into them because I decided I probably needed to see the rest of the story first. But I liked it quite a bit. I told you about it. That made you want to read it too. But you being the completionist, you had to start all the way at the beginning and now own the entire series of Swamp Thing.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, I can tell you exactly how many Swamp Thing comics there are if I just consult my Rolodex for a second.
Yeah.
I have a
Well,
Rolodex. Shut up. That was to the audience, not you. You already knew about the Rolodex.
well, the audience can't talk, so.
Yeah, well, I can tell them to shut up. Hold on, I'll find it. Ah, there it is. Yep. So there are currently 355 Swamp Thing comics spread out across 7 different series and some mini series and also a few Batman issues that had that was a Swamp Thing story.
And I've read roughly 15 of them, so well on my way. Also, I
Yep.
apologize if there's any background noise coming through my mic, because the one thing I don't have in my studio is soundproofing.
I don't have soundproofing either, but I'm way in the back, so basically it's fine.
Yeah, well, I'm just in my office at like the front of the house, so any other noise that happens might come through. I don't know. Not sure how sensitive this microphone is.
Well, yeah, I mean, like my room is basically all one room, but my office is the back corner. I've got it walled off essentially with shelves.
Yeah, you've got a great setup.
Mm.
Yeah, so
So
I guess.
okay, yeah, no. If you start, here's the thing: all you people out there, everyone is always looking at Alan Moore. They're like, he's the best guy, and so whenever anyone talks about Swamp Thing, most of the time it's in relation to the Alan Moore run because they're like, this is the definitive run, and yes, it's very good, but also that's only like 48 comics out of a total of 355. There are other Swamp Thing comics. No one ever talks about them. That's why we're doing this, an incredibly detailed retrospective that will go through the entire series eventually.
Yes, eventually.
And so, here's an Alan Moore's run doesn't even make sense unless you read the Marty Plaskow run that comes right before it. But you can't read that unless you read the original series, which was created by Len Wein
Yeah,
and Bernie
I guess
Wrightson.
coming from someone who read the first 2 issues of the Alan Moore run, yeah, that's pretty true. The Alan Moore run picks up somewhere it leaves a lot of questions unanswered. I mean, you could probably still read it and enjoy it just because Alan Moore's a good storyteller and his stories are usually fairly self-contained. So you can still just pick it up and read it. If you don't want to be a total completionist, you totally could still do that. But
you should.
Best experience is probably to read the whole thing if you have the time. Which,
I mean, hey, be lucky now. The current trade paperbacks include issue 20. The older trade paperbacks started at 21. The one where he just gets picked apart, the anatomy lesson. That's the famous Swamp Thing story.
oh,
They start there. They don't even show how he got shot. They're just like, hey, look at here we are. He's analyze him, Woodrue, and it's like, who are these people?
Well, I guess we're maybe getting a little bit into spoiler territory here.
Okay,
I feel like maybe we should start off by giving a better explanation of how our spoiler warning system works.
Oh,
hasn't really come up very many times yet. So
yeah, and we didn't even discuss it at all in the first episode, but we retroactively edited in.
There's no first episode.
Yeah, that's right. No, this is the first episode.
Yeah,
this is definitely not the third time we're attempting this.
So anyways, basically, spoiler warning only counts for things that are not like the main topic of the video. So basically there's a blanket spoiler warning over this entire video for the first, or I guess not a video, whatever you call it.
Any Swamp, not the first 13. There's just blanket spoilers potentially for any Swamp Thing comics.
No, I'm going to say first 13 because I haven't read much past the first 13.
Okay, I guess that's
so fair. We're probably not going to discuss that very much anyways, and if it does come up, I feel like maybe we should throw up a spoiler warning. But if we talk about anything that is not related to Swamp Thing, that's when the spoiler warning would come into effect. That's when we'll tell you, we're talking about something that you did not come into this podcast knowingly having spoiled.
Yep.
So,
because if there's one thing I hate more, it's when I'm avoiding spoilers and then end up getting spoilers from something that had nothing to do with the thing that was spoilers.
Oh yeah, did I ever tell you how I had Halo 4? Did I ever tell you how I had Halo 4 spoiled for me?
How was that spoiled for you?
Well, hey, let's throw up that spoiler warning right now and talk about it. So starting at 9. Can you write this down for me?
Wait, if it's in the well, yeah, actually, I guess that'll be faster so that you don't have to go back through the entire video.
All right, starting at 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
All right, so anyways, Halo 4, right? I had started playing it, hadn't finished it, and actually I just hadn't gotten around to finishing. Anyways, I was playing Gary's mod. Probably not how you
Oh,
thought the
good.
story was going to start. I was playing Gary's mod with a couple of friends, loading into a server, and the thing about Gary's mod servers is you can kind of like throw up your own personal like loading page splash screen things on your servers. People have a lot of fun with those. Well, this one happened to have something called the random spoiler bot on it that would,
What?
while the game
Why?
was
Why
loading,
does that exist?
well, just for fun. So yeah, it would just throw up a random spoiler. So the one I got was, I can't believe Cortana dies at the end of Halo 4. And that is how I had Halo 4 spoiled for me.
Oh, fun.
And then, yeah, I guess then if you play Halo 5, though, I don't know, should we even go into that?
I don't care about Halo anymore. They should have just stopped, but they kept going, and
Well, I
it's
heard-
the same with everything.
I heard Halo Infinite's actually pretty good.
How? It's not out yet.
It is out.
Not only the multiplayer.
Well, I hear the multiplayer is pretty good.
I don't know. I'm of the opinion that the story was fine with the trilogy, and then Halo 4 being a nice little epilogue, but they finally got to the point where the story doesn't make sense anymore unless you've read the expanded universe, and it's like, I shouldn't have to read that for the game to make sense.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. But that's how it is. Oh yeah, but in Halo 5, basically, she isn't dead even, so it's like, I don't even know if that really is a spoiler.
Wait, I thought she just comes back to life.
Well, she dies, but she dies in like, since she dies inside the Forerunners like computer network, she basically gets like integrated into it,
What?
and then she's like the villain of Halo 5.
Yeah, I knew that part. I tried avoiding the spoilers, but it happened eventually, and then I stopped caring.
Yeah. Anyways, okay, so spoiler warning for Halo ends at 12 minutes. So,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
there we go. All right, welcome
So-
back to all those who didn't want Halo spoiled for you.
So, should we put up a spoiler warning if I make a passing reference to something that happens later, or can we just not?
What do you mean?
If I make a passing reference to anything that happens later in Swamp Thing, do we have to put up a spoiler warning for that?
No. I wouldn't say no, because that's just getting too down into the details. And I would just ask, maybe don't throw too many of those out, just because I don't want it spoiled for me either.
I'm gonna try to avoid it because you know how I feel about spoilers.
Yeah, you hate
I'm
them.
just saying it might come up inadvertently.
Well, anyways, let's get into the discussion. So yeah, I actually just yesterday finished reading the last like several issues of the first 13.
Yeah.
The whole time I was reading, though, I kept like a little list going of different questions I had or topics I thought might be fun to discuss. So maybe we should just go through a couple of those. So the first one I wrote down, I mean, we kind of already talked about this off mic, but I feel like it's worth talking about again. Issue 1, as in what, I don't know, it's not actually issue 1 of Swamp Thing, but the first issue.
Oh, okay, so the short story.
Yeah, the short story. So basically, you loaned me your Bronze Age omnibus of Swamp Thing, and that does not start with Swamp Thing issue 1. It starts with, let me look. What's the name?
It starts with House of Secrets 92.
Well, yeah, not even the full comic though, just like a 10-page excerpt from that.
No, just the story that was related to Swamp Thing. It was an anthology comic.
Yeah.
If you want to read House of Secrets, go to your local comic book store and then cry in despair because they don't have it. You have to go online probably.
But yeah, so anyways, I thought that would be, I don't know, I was a little confused initially, but I figured out it's basically just like the pilot episode of the series, kind of where they were testing out the concept. But yeah,
and the concept is man gets killed in swamp and comes back as Swamp Man.
That's basically the gist.
And then it's really sad about it.
Yep, that's kind of the whole story. So
there's an underlying sadness to all of Swamp Thing. It never truly goes away.
So there you go. There's kind of the fun little prelude to the actual series. Anyways, let's get into the real series though. So the first question.
We didn't say the background. I gotta hold on. I gotta tell him the background. So House of Secrets 92. Len Wein, Wein-Wrighston. He's dead now, but his art is fantastic. Go look it up sometime. He also made He made a book. He illustrated a copy of Frankenstein. I own it. It's good. Anyways, they are together and they worked on the short story. Then DC was like, "Hey, this is pretty cool. You should do a full series." And it's like, "Well, I don't want to just rehash what we did." And it's like, "Okay, what if we retool it? Let's make a new character. We'll call him Alec Holland." And then it started in
What was his name in the first one, in the
Alec
original?
Alex Olson.
Right.
But yeah, and then he becomes Alec Holland. And then starting in 1972, right in the middle of the Bronze Age of comics, which is one of the best ones, by the way. The Golden and Silver Age, look, they have their defenders, but they're not as good. People didn't know how to make comics yet, especially in the Golden Age. They were still writing them as if they were newspaper strips.
Well,
The Bronze Age,
that's what they were.
well, yeah, they didn't know how to do comics other than, newspapers are comics. I guess we just make it longer. And then Silver Age, of course, stupid comics code. It's fun sometimes, but it's at the same time nothing seems to really matter. The Bronze Age is when it really starts coming back to form. You can have like dark stories, but you can still have fun stories, and you can actually have stories that matter. And
it's where it was just the right amount of unhinged.
Yeah, it's the perfect amount. It's the Bronze Age is that period of time. It's like the perfect amount and balance of dark themes and character development with lighthearted antics and such. Swamp Thing's not a lighthearted comic. Sometimes it's lighter hearted than others, but for large portions, it's just a straight up horror comic. But in these first 13 issues, written by Len Wein, it's a gothic horror comic.
Yeah, I'll say
that means classic monsters.
I think this is like the perfect issue or the perfect comic to kind of act as a cross section of the Bronze Age. You'll see some of the stuff we talk about. It's pretty crazy, but somehow doesn't feel out of place. I don't know.
Swamp Thing was the first comic to abandon the comic code outright, starting with issue 30. Was it 31? Later in the second series, not the first series. The second series from the 80s is when they start abandoning the comic code.
Well, we'll get to that. But so I guess maybe we should just start with what's the Swamp Thing's backstory? Or do you want me to say it actually? See how well I retained all this?
I guess you can say one. It's fine. I don't care.
All right. Anyways,
no, you're good. Go.
Alec Holland and his wife Linda are some kind of scientists, kind of nondescript, but they're
botanists.
Well, they're botanists, but anyways, they're under contract from presumably the government to take them out to some swamp. Do they ever specifically say where the swamp is?
Louisiana.
Right, Louisiana. Oh, right, because it's in the bayou. Duh. Anyway, so yeah, they get taken to the bayou. There's a little barn out there where they set up a lab, and they're developing the biorestorative formula, which is supposed to help, basically, I don't know, save the rainforests.
Yeah, essentially, it's a world hunger thing. It's like, we can make good plants, and then everyone will eat food.
Yeah, there you go. So they're working on that. They've got some weird mixture of chemicals. Some shady dudes show up called the Conclave who want to buy the formula off of them. They say, no way. That's not cool.
Yeah, we're ethical scientists.
Yeah, we're ethical scientists. We don't do
We're not mad scientists like that other guy we'll meet in issue 2.
And basically the Conclave doesn't like that, so they rig the lab with bombs. And Alec Holland...
but first they kill Linda.
Oh yeah, I guess they just shoot her, don't they?
Yeah.
They shoot Linda, rig the lab with bombs, and then Alec Holland gets blown to bits and thrown out into the swamp, along with his biorestorative formula.
He gets set on fire and then falls into a bayou.
Yep, along with all the chemicals, the biorestorative formula does its weird stuff in the water, and he turns into the Swamp Thing and comes back and wants revenge.
And then he goes and kills all those guys, and then he's like, well, my wife's dead and my work has been destroyed. And then Matt Cable, he sees the Swamp Thing. Oh yeah, I forgot. Matthew Cable, he's also there.
He's like an FBI agent or something?
He's a special agent who was assigned to help protect them. And then he comes back, sees that they've all been killed. And then he sees the Swamp Thing, and he's like, oh my gosh, that guy must be the guy who killed Alec Holland. I'm going to hunt you down and kill you. And that will provide some of the conflict for the initial series.
Yeah, that's actually a note I wrote later, is Matt Cable is also stupid, because he sticks to that. They do eventually resolve it, where he realizes, no, I've been wrong this whole time. I've been blinded by rage. He's not actually bad. He's been saving me this whole time. But, I think it took him a little too long to come to that realization.
Why? He's under the impression that the Thing killed Alec Holland, and Swamp Thing can't talk yet. So,
well, he kind of can, but
he can't really talk.
I don't know.
Later, he can talk easier.
I guess for me personally, Matt Cable stuck to that vendetta a little longer than was fully believable, but it's totally fine.
I don't know. I watched The Fugitive. It's totally believable.
All right. It's not that big. It's a nitpick more than anything. But that actually brings me to
my... The 60s one. I haven't seen the movie one.
Yeah, so that actually brings me to kind of my next note. That's also kind of a question I have. So
what's up?
the main way that the main form of dialogue and exposition throughout the entire story is the Swamp Thing's inner monologue.
Yes.
We see his thoughts.
Uh-huh.
Why are they slow? I mean, I know they
That's
established
how
that.
he speaks.
Well, exactly. I mean, they established it makes sense that he would talk that way. For those of you that haven't seen the comic, it's he talks in chunks, very Christopher Walken-esque, where he will say.
No.
Well, I mean,
He does not talk like Christopher Walken.
Okay, it's a lot slower than a slow Christopher Walken. Lots of ellipses. So basically, he'll just say a few words. There'll be an ellipsis, and then he'll continue a sentence. So literally mid sentence, he'll have pauses. And this is in his inner monologue. So that'll make they explain that it's very hard for him to make that body talk, which totally makes sense. It's made of swamp matter. It shouldn't be easy for him to talk. But when it's just his inner monologue, why can't he just think normally?
Because he's made of plants now, so it's slower.
But he's still totally capable of he still has all his intellect. They've shown that.
It's still there, but it moves slower now because it's harder to think in the plant man.
I guess. I don't know. That's just another kind of nitpick for me. Is I understand that for his talking, but why do his honestly when I'm reading it, I kind of just skip over the ellipses and just read
so
it
do
as
I.
normal. Because it's
no, I do that all the time because it's I'm not going to actually read this at this pace.
Yeah, it was just
It's just about maintaining a consistent voice.
That was just a question I had. Also, and then that brings me to my next total nitpick. Why does he have teeth? He has very human teeth.
I mean, I could tell you why, but then I would be bad. You already know it, but that technically doesn't happen until long after this run.
Well, I think I know what you're alluding to, but I don't see how that connects here. Because it's basically his entire body was replaced with plant matter. Yes. Why does he still have very human-looking teeth? It comes across almost if this was a movie, you would know that was because of limitation in the costume department. They couldn't cover up his human teeth, so he just has those. But this is a comic. They drew it.
I'll tell you why they have human teeth. It's because there was a plant that was made to look like that. Done.
I guess. Well, I know, but see that's kind of inconsistent though, because the rest of the plant was made to look just vaguely like his body, but it's still clearly made of plant matter. Why are his teeth still apparently just bone?
It's so you can see them, and it's because it's a comic book, and you still need to be able to make him have expressions. That's why.
I guess.
That's the reason.
All right. Well, that's kind of the end of those nitpicks for now.
Yeah. The Conclave is led by Nate and Mr. E, not to be confused by the Mr. E from Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, which you should all go watch.
Well, the first time they actually name drop Mr. We see him plenty of times, but the first time they actually say his name is in the Batman crossover issue.
Is that when they finally name him?
Yeah, at least that's the first time I remember them calling him Mr. E. And so when I read
these years ago, and you read them now.
Yeah, well, I read that. I thought it was going to be the Riddler since it was the Batman. I thought Mr. E was going to be Edward Nygma.
But you could see him. You could see that it wasn't Edward Nygma.
Well, I don't know.
I forgot, Mr. I've only read one Batman comic in my life.
2, technically.
You've read 1.
I read the first and second edition of Gotham by Gaslight. That's 2.
Which not only is that the only Batman comic you've ever read, it's not even an in-continuity story.
Well,
that's an Elseworlds.
Yeah, but anyways, so let's talk more. Let's talk more Swamp Thing.
So anyways, okay, that's the setup. Issue 2, it seems like it won't be. It ends up being really important throughout the entire series. He goes in the first issue. There's a cameo of a dude with a crystal ball, and then he finds a gothic castle with an evil mad scientist in it.
Well, no, he gets kidnapped by a bunch of creepy monsters and taken to the gothic castle.
Yes. And the scientist's name is Anton Arcane. This guy will be incredibly important going forward.
Yeah, he comes across totally as just a one-off villain, which I guess is kind of in character for DC, because apparently that's what Joker was too.
Oh, yeah.
He was a one-off villain, and then they just added a panel at the end to keep him alive.
They killed him, and then he's like, this character's too good, and it's like, he's fine. They pulled a Duke from the G.I. Joe movie.
Sure.
That's it's vague enough. Anyways, wait, what?
Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. I'm gonna go to.
Okay, you deal with that first. Hold music. We have hold music. Is music playing right now? I can't tell if there's music playing right now because we're running this through a Discord, and only he plays the music from his side, so I don't know what we're doing. How well can anyone hear me? Well, anyways, okay, he goes to the castle. Anton Arcane is there, and he's like, I'm old, I'm ancient, I want to not die. And then he's like, he studies him for a while, and then he's like, hey, I've got an idea. We can use magic powers to turn me into a Swamp Thing so that I'll live, and then you can turn back into Alec Holland, which they do. But then he finds out that Arcane is evil.
All right,
and is actually, hi, I've been what hold music was playing?
I was blasting Manic Polka.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I couldn't tell if anyone... I just kept talking about issue 2.
All right, well...
You gotta give me more warning.
Well, sorry, my wife doesn't give much warning either. She called me. Anyways,
I know, but I was just gonna say I was just gonna keep talking while you dealt with that, but then you're like, all right, hold music, and then you were just gone, and it's like, wait.
It's comedy gold, my dude.
Okay, anyways, I just got to the part where we found out that Arcane was actually evil and wanted to take over the world or something, so then he has to he has to unmagic himself.
We'll keep going. I gotta apparently go grab a package off the front porch, so,
All right, well, anyways, so he has to unmagic himself, right? And then he goes, there's a magic goblet thing that he puts the magic power into after beating Arcane. And you see, he gets kidnapped by the guys. He beats the guy. Oh, and this is still the first 10 issues are drawn by Bernie Wrightson. Bernie Wrightson leaves after issue 10, and then Len Wein writes the last 3 issues, and then he leaves too. He comes back though as the editor for the second series. Anyways, he meets this dude, and he's like, I'm old. I want to be immortal, but I can't use it. So then he forces himself to talk and make him. So in this issue, Anton Arcane is just a regular, normal old man. And he studies the Swamp Thing and finds out that he doesn't have blood. Because his body's made of plant matter, he's basically immune to things like bullets, and he's investigating him. And then Matt Cable is there, and he's like, where did he go? And then you see Nathan Ellery with his monkey that he abuses. And then, okay, he gets the big jar, makes himself human, and then he's like, I'm a swamp man now. And then, he's sad about things, and then he finds out that this guy is evil and that he's going to make himself immortal. And then he's like, well, that's a bad thing. And so he fights his way through some dudes, destroys the thing, turns back into a swamp man. Arcane's like, well, I'm leaving. And then he accidentally falls off a cliff. And then he dies, and they all follow him. The unmen, they follow him. And then he's like, well, I'm still sad. And then you can see at the last panel, it shows a Frankenstein's monster looking at him. And that'll be in issue 3.
Yes, the Patchwork Man. Yeah, so, I don't know that we need to go into full recaps of every issue. We'd be here a while. I think we can just talk highlights.
We have to talk in full detail. This is a full-on, this will be the most detailed retrospective of Swamp Thing on the internet by the time we are done. Because unlike everyone else, we're actually going to spend more than a paragraph talking about the Doug Wheeler run.
Well, I haven't even read it yet, so.
I know.
That's for a later time.
No, it's just like, if you look at the Wikipedia page, they put and you go to the Swamp Thing comics, they have explanations for every run. And then you get to Doug Wheeler, and it's 2 paragraphs, and it's basically just he wrote these issues. It was drawn by this guy, and then it just moves on, and it's what? Why? I can't understand it. I've read somewhere that this run is seen as not as good, and it's where is it seen as that? Because I've never seen anyone talk about it, and the letters columns all seem to be positive letters. So it's who is going out there saying that this run wasn't as good? Because I can't find anyone who said it. Of course, I don't even know who Doug Wheeler is. He has there's no information about the guy.
Anyways, I don't know where to go from there. Let's just keep going, I guess.
The Patchwork Man.
Well, yeah, so this is kind of where it starts to become apparent that this entire series has almost a episodic kind of Twilight Zone feel to it.
Yeah.
Where it's just every issue is just basically a very contrived setup
Well, it's not contrived.
Well, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's
Okay.
very contrived.
Which
We'll,
when?
we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
It's basically just there. It's a walk. They're just going through all the various archetypes of Gothic horror. You got an evil. You got the setup. Then you've got an evil castle. You've got classic movie monsters. You got witches. You got eldritch gods.
Yeah, and as great as all that is, it's just like those.
You talking about the time travel one? Is that the one?
That one especially, but I mean, there's more than that. I mean, I think the first one where it became like glaring to me was like issue 5. I think is the one where he goes up against the werewolf.
No, that's issue 4. No,
Oh.
issue 5 is the one where he has to stop the Salem witch trials in 1973. Which I'd like to point out, that's not even the only time. I've seen at least 2 or 3 times, like characters. What was the other one? I think Firefly had an episode where they have to where people think that somebody's a witch, and then there's at least one other thing where they're just full on like McCarthyism. Salem, well, not McCarthyism. What am I thinking of? They're related concepts. I read The Crucible in high school.
I did not.
Anyways, it's clearly modern day, or at least close enough to modern day, that the fact that people are having like a full-on witch trial and then talking about burning the witch, it's like, what in the hell happened? Where are we?
We're getting ahead of ourselves. So let's go ahead and just talk Patchwork Man, and then
Patrick, man.
Or Patchwork Man. That's issue 3.
Futterman.
What?
Have you been watching recent SpongeBob?
No,
I know for a fact that there's a Patrick Man episode. Have you been watching that?
No, I have not.
Nobody wants that.
Also, Bernie Gumsher.
What? How you doing?
I'm good.
This has been our commercial break. We hope that you will sponsor us.
Hope you will go buy lots of that product.
Yes, whatever product. You know what? Go out and buy lots of Jimmy John's brand sandwiches. Available if you have a Jimmy John's in your town, but they don't deliver.
Like a 50-50 chance of that.
I don't know. It's like they have. I like Jimmy John's sandwiches, but at the same time, I also like hot sandwiches, and they only do cold sandwiches.
Depends on my mood.
I don't know. Okay, are you one of the people who thinks that Subway is like the worst thing ever, or do you like Subway?
I don't mind Subway. I mean,
there doesn't seem to be a lot of in between those two perspectives. People either like, yeah, Subway's all right, or they're like, Subway's disgusting. I can't believe anyone eats that. And it's like, what's wrong with Subway?
I don't know. I mean, it's not like my favorite place, but it's like it's a fast food place that's reasonably healthy. So I mean,
I always get the meatball sub.
Yeah, unless you get that.
What? That's just what I want.
Yeah, no shame. It's a good sub. Anyways, let's get back on topic.
If I'm eating out, my goal is not to be necessarily healthy at that point. It's like I've already committed to eating out. I think health is secondary now.
Yeah, no. Well, I guess that's what I mean. Like Subway is that place you go when you're not really planning to eat out, but you need to eat something quick, and you don't necessarily want to be super unhealthy about it. So you go to Subway and get yourself a nice wrap and load it with veggies.
Yep. I can't eat wraps. Man, comic books were so cheap before. They were
20 cents an issue. Like that's on the front page of every single one of every like issue in the collected volume you gave me. It's like still 20 cents. And it's like,
yep. Well, that's the 70s for you.
And $4 an issue now, right? Unless it went up again.
Well, here's the thing. They're $4 an issue for standard issues, but also the issues are shorter now. We're looking at 20 to 22 pages most of the time. And then if it's any longer than that, they charge you even more money for it. But at the same time, it's like, is 20 cents really all that cheaper if we take inflation into account?
Well, let's find out.
I'm already doing that. I'm trying to get to the inflation calculator.
Let's see who can get there first.
I'm already there.
Oh, you did it. All right.
All right. So, if an item from 1972 costs 20 cents in 2021, it would cost $1.32. So yeah, they're much cheaper.
Yeah, a lot more than inflation can account for. But I mean,
that's still an insane amount of inflation because let me tell you, the economy sure is in the toilet these days with all the downturns and the stocks and the bubbles.
Well, I mean, to be fair, comic books today are also made of a lot sturdier material than they were back then.
Yes,
they used to just be straight up made on like newsprint with an ink that would smudge if you tried hard enough.
Oh yeah, no, that's That's why proper comic book care. Keep it in a board in a bag.
I'll say I think that back when they started making comic books, they never predicted they would get the following or importance that they ended up having, so they just kind of made them like any other magazine. They're just like, it's okay if this wears out, It's like someone will read it once or twice, and then it'll probably get thrown away anyways.
Yep. No, yeah, they weren't. It was not a medium that you kept. It was like you read it and then you threw it away, and it's like, that's why do you think old comics are so rare? Nobody was keeping them.
Yeah, wasn't it like $20,000 for? No, way more than that for like issue 1 of Superman. A few million, I think, actually.
Issue 1 of Action Comics. Superman wasn't a comic yet.
But it was the first appearance of Superman, and I don't know, I think a few $1 million. I know Nicolas Cage bought a copy of it, and then it got stolen and turned up like 5 years later. Still waiting for them to make a movie about that.
I don't know. I'm still waiting for a movie where Nicolas Cage used to be Superman.
You can watch Jiu-Jitsu. He's not Superman, but he's the best part of a pretty super bad movie.
I think you've mentioned that movie before.
And we will discuss it on this podcast someday.
I haven't seen it yet.
Get the stomach to actually finish it. I got so bored that I didn't even finish it.
Wait, so it's bad as in boring?
It's like it's confusing. It should be so bad it's good, but it just isn't. It's just boring. It's like it's got this crazy out there.
How do you make Nicolas Cage boring?
Well, he wasn't boring. He was the only good part of that plot, but he feels incredibly tacked on.
I see.
He's got the only good scenes, but he's like in very little of it. And definitely doesn't even need to be there from what I saw of it. He doesn't really add anything to the story.
Well, I mean, he adds the fact that he's Nicolas Cage.
Which, to be fair, that's adding a lot. Let's get back on Swamp Thing.
Yeah, issue 3, the one where he fights the Frankenstein.
Yeah, the Patchwork Man.
I mean, you can explain this one if you want. I talked for a while about that.
Honestly, this one didn't stick with me super well.
Oh, wait, I forgot about the second issue. An important character gets... Wait, does she get introduced in this issue or the other issue?
Abigail Arcane?
Yeah.
She's introduced in the second issue, I think.
Is she in the second? Oh, wait, maybe she's in the third issue.
I think she's in the second. Well, she's in both. I think she's in both of them.
Oh, no, okay. She gets introduced in the third issue.
Okay. That shows you how much I remember.
All right, never mind. You keep going.
So, and Abigail Arcane, she'll come up. Yeah, Matt Cable meets her. I think he goes there looking for the Swamp Thing. Right, because, I believe Arcane kidnaps him with, like, a hydroplane, right, and flies him off to wherever the heck Arcane's castle is.
Yeah, they're looking for the black plane, and so he's like, all right, I'm going on there.
Yeah, and Matt Cable sees him fly over with the Swamp Thing and follows him there. That's how Matt Cable ends up there, because he's on his crazy manhunt for the Swamp Thing. He goes to, like, the little town below the castle and meets Abigail Arcane, who is Arcane's daughter, granddaughter?
No, she's his niece.
Niece, right, not even. Okay, so she's his niece.
Yeah, she works at the clinic, and she has white hair with black streaks.
I think the black streaks are just shading.
No, they're there.
Are they?
Look at some of the more detailed artwork. Hold on, I can put it in the Discord. I just realized we have the power to do that.
That is true, but also looking through, just thumbing through these comics, like all the girls have black streaks in their hair, just because that's how they show texture in the long hair.
Yeah, but she actually has black streaks in her hair, as I can show you by finding one of the more detailed covers from a later issue.
Oh, well, there you go.
Which I will put here. You talk for a second while I go find it. I know exactly which cover I need.
Yeah, okay, here, I'm going to pull up my book here just to... So, let's see, issue 3 starts off with Swamp Thing still in the castle after Arcane has just fallen to his death, along with all of his dude boys, and, he's walking around, he finds some weird chemicals that he's going to try to use to create a remedy, but then he breaks the vials because he's got big, clumsy meat hands, even though they're actually not made of meat. He gets angry, and, storms off into the castle, and falls through the floor. Because I guess he's just too heavy for the floor. And as he's falling, some creepy, disgusting hand grabs him. And by creepy, disgusting, I mean the skin texture on the hand does not match the rest of the arm. Because the guy is, as his name would imply, made of patchwork. As in, he's basically just Frankenstein's monster. He's made of a lot of different people put together. But yeah, the guy saves him, pulls him up, or tries to pull him up, but then he slips because Swamp Thing is slimy and disgusting. He falls all the way down, and then we cut to Matt Cable, and that's actually when Matt Cable goes into town and meets Abigail Arcane. And I do see the black streaks you're talking about, but I totally always just read those as shading, because there are also panels later where you don't see those.
All right, I have to ask, how much do you know about Abigail Arcane?
I know she ends up having some weird magic powers, but those haven't really come up yet, as far as I've gotten.
I need to figure out, because it's like I want to post this cover, but I don't know if it would spoil it, because I don't know if you know about what Abby Arcane does later.
I'm gonna guess I don't. It's fine. I can see what you're talking about, though. No, she does actually have some black streaks. I think they're kind of trying to. It's supposed to be kind of reminiscent of like Elvira. I think is kind of what they're going for there, to stick with the gothic horror theme. Anyways, we can keep going.
I'm. How do I figure out if this is something? Because I feel like you already know this one, but I don't want to.
I don't know much at all about Abigail Arcane. I don't know anything she does, so I probably don't know whatever you're about to say. But you can just go ahead and say it.
I'll leave it out then.
All right.
You'll find out eventually, anyways. But
yeah. Anyways, somehow Swamp Thing and the Patchwork Man. I think doesn't the Patchwork? Yes. Oh no, you get a flashback and you learn who the Patchwork Man is, and he is a Arcane's brother, I believe, right? Oh yeah, he's Abigail's father.
It's Abby's father. It's the reason why she lived with him for a while.
Right.
It should be stated that Anton Arcane is like a complete and utter creep and is like one of the most evil characters in comic books.
Yeah, he's kind of gross.
Oh yeah, he gets worse.
I'm sure, but
he was walking, he stepped on a landmine, and then Anton Arcane was like, my brother, I'm going to use my mad science to turn you into a Frankenstein man.
Randomly stepped on a landmine. I think they say it was from, like, the war, but...
I mean, Arcane did it intentionally.
Yeah, probably. But he blows him up, and that was something to do with his daughter, right?
Yeah, he blew him up
to get to his daughter.
That's basically, yeah.
Okay, and then, yeah, then he somehow rebuilds his brother as the Patchwork Man. And
you just got to accept he has the ability of mad science where he can literally just build living beings out of body parts, and it works. And that's just part of the premise.
Yep, well, there you go. And then, yeah, Swamp Thing ends up down in the. Oh, geez. Yeah, this one just kind of goes all over the place. They end up in the forest.
He goes and grabs her.
Yeah, well, yeah. This Patchwork Man he grabs Abby because he remembers that she's his daughter.
Yeah.
And then they take it all as she's kidnapping him, and so Swamp Thing ends up fighting the Patchwork Man to save Abby.
Yeah.
When it's all kind of just some weird misunderstanding.
And then Matt Cable gets a torches and pitchforks mob because he doesn't like.
There's one of those in every other issue in this comic.
Well, it's gothic horror. That's what you do.
Yeah, no, there's like a formula. Every other issue is going to have a mob, a pretty girl, and probably some pitchforks.
Yeah. Anyways, she starts to fall. He saves her, helps save her. Then he falls to his doom, and then he gives her back to Cable.
Yeah, main takeaway here. Patchwork Man she recognizes him in the last moment of his life because he ends up falling to his death. And then she recognizes him as her father, but he's dead. So that's where that ends.
And then Abby's like, well, I'm going with
Yeah, I got nothing to stay here for, so she decides to go with Cable on his globe-trotting adventure. They hop back in the hydroplane. And
then Swamp Thing hitches a ride.
Yeah, Swamp Thing just hitches a ride, hangs onto the outside of the plane, and they fly away. And this is exactly where the whole contrived nature of these plots comes into play. This is the first really good example of that. The next issue begins with their plane having crash-landed in some weird countryside, or I guess, yeah, it's Monster of the Moors. Some weird countryside where this plane has crash-landed. And Swamp Thing apparently is the only reason they survive this crash, because he somehow manages to slow the plane down enough that they don't all die. They get picked up by some man and woman in a horse and carriage, talking all ambiguous about, oh, I hope he hasn't gotten to them first.
Yeah, because you see in gothic horror comics, even though this ostensibly is written in the 70s, we're just kind of meant to assume that in fact all of this takes place in some weird colonial time.
Well, no, I didn't take it that way. I just took it as some
no, I know. It's just everywhere they crash seems to have weird colonial sensibilities.
Yeah. So basically, long story short, you end up finding out this couple is their son is a werewolf, and
Oh yeah, there's a couple.
yeah, they're an old couple. They're the ones that found him. Their son is a werewolf, and the reason their plane crashed is they flew into a storm and saw some landing lights down below, assumed it was a runway, and tried to land, and then crash landed. Well, it turns out that that's exactly what the old couple wanted. You see, they set up some lights out in the moors to make a fake runway so they could lure people in, make them crash their planes, and then feed them to their son.
That's not contrived. That's just a setup. That's a normal setup.
I guess, but what's stupid there though is that they say that everyone else pretty much died in the crash. The only reason these guys survived is because they had Swamp Thing. So your plan is a very bad one.
Well, no.
Unless,
They're
I mean, I
feeding
guess.
people. Their,
Oh yeah, I
their
guess.
goal is to feed people, so it doesn't matter if they die in the crash.
I
The
guess that's
fact
a
that
good
they
point.
lived is the reason why this is a story at all. Because if
I
they
guess.
died, then there would just be no story.
I guess that's a good point. But my point here is that being an issue, like it comes across very much as like you could pick up any one of these issues and just read it on its own, and it would be a complete story. They hadn't really fallen into that whole like episodic storytelling thing entirely. Um, but it just
Oh
makes
yeah,
it so
no,
that these
don't
issues on
worry.
their own these issues on their own don't really follow any consistent theme. You know, this one he's fighting a werewolf.
Well, no, they do. It's gothic horror is the theme. They're just going through all of the gothic horror archetypes. There's vampires later. There's a Frankenstein's monster. There's a swamp monster. There's witches. They're just going through the gothic horror. He meets Batman, the character who's basically this modern gothic horror superhero.
Yeah,
That's what
it's
they're
just
doing. Look,
it's crazy.
look. The narrative thread at this point in the series is Swamp Thing wants to be human. Alec Cable wants to kill him.
And basically, right now, Swamp Thing is just following him around as they stumble into each plot. I guess that's what I mean by contrived. It's like there is no really real through line for why all these things are happening. They just kind of stumble into them.
Well, if
And
it
then
didn't happen, then there wouldn't be a story.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's
You wouldn't
bad.
be
I'm just
hearing
saying
about
it's
it.
very much a product of its time. Also, I'm
You
just
know,
remembering now, there's something we totally neglected to mention, and that is the dog. Do you
what
remember the
about
dog? He's just there, and he has a recording chip in his head so that the conclave can like eavesdrop on everything that's happening. And that brings up a lot of questions. Like, one, why are they bringing this dog with them everywhere?
Wait, where did they get the dog? I don't remember where they got it.
I think he belonged to a couple of the goons in like the first issue or something, or the second issue.
Oh, okay.
And then they just like adopted him after the goons died, I think, because they felt bad for him. But what they didn't know was that it has the the conclave sends it to Linda and Alex's barn so that they can eavesdrop on them. Like they send it there, and then Linda, being the animal lover she is, takes the dog in and adopts it, and that basically just lets the conclave now listen in on everything they're doing. And then after that, Matt Cable adopts the dog because he recognizes that it was Alec and Linda's, and then for some reason just takes it with him on all his globetrotting adventures. And then every now and then they cut back to the conclave man, Mr. E, listening in on what they're doing through the dog, just to remind you that that's happening, even though it doesn't really end up having any real payoff.
I mean, it kind of does. Okay,
Like,
so he's trying to cure his condition. Cable's trying to find him to avenge his good friends Alec and Linda, and Mr. E is trying to find him so he can steal the biorestorative formula.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Well, we can kind of just glance over the rest of issue 4 then. Basically, the son turns into a werewolf.
They want to cure their son of werewolfism, which is why they were trying to lure people here, and they finally get...
Oh, wait, no, that's what it was. Yeah, that's why it was a bad plan. Because, no, they weren't trying to feed their son. They were trying to lure in someone so they could, like, do a full blood transfusion, which apparently, like, if you fully exchange blood with someone, they get your werewolfism, and you get their humanism.
Sure.
I guess is what they're saying. So it's like, if that's your plan, why are you using a plan that has, like, a 90% kill rate at this point?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's why it was a stupid plan, because they weren't trying to feed their son, they were trying to cure him.
One downside of this podcast is that we can't show off the artwork.
Well, I mean, just go Google it. It's worth seeing. Just go look up some of the artwork and you'll get an idea. But yeah, it is very well drawn.
You know what we should do? We should set up some sort of like separate website that's literally just an archive of images we discussed during the podcast, and it's just all in one place.
Yeah.
We should set that up later.
Eventually.
At some point.
Anyways, let's finish up issue 4. So basically,
Swamp Thing shows up and beats him up.
yeah, Swamp Thing shows up and
They
they
have to.
fight the.
Yeah, this turns out the chandelier. It's got a night. It's made of silver and it's got a big spike on it.
Yeah, so that's what they say is like apparently the couple like they've removed all the silver from their house because they know that can kill a werewolf, but they neglected their chandelier because they never imagined that would ever have any effect on their son. Well, then Swamp Thing jumps up and grabs the chandelier and freaking impales their son with it.
Yeah, but don't worry, the son's cool with it. He's
Yeah,
like,
he's
oh,
like, no,
thank
that's
goodness, I
good.
don't have to deal with this anymore.
It's like, oh, thank God, I'm done with this now. And that's where issue 4 ends, and then it just ends with them walking off. Like Swamp Thing walks off into the snow.
And then, Abby's like, hey, it saved our lives twice. And he's like, we should be thankful. And he's like, no, that thing murdered Alec and Linda. It doesn't matter what it does. I have to avenge them.
Yeah.
And
anyways,
then the issue's over.
And then issue 5, The Last of the Ravenwood Witches. This one starts off with Swamp Thing on a boat in disguise. I love how many times they do this. He goes in disguise with an overcoat and a top hat.
It works.
I mean, somehow, because his hands are still clearly green. He's obviously not wearing pants.
Have you ever seen Ninja Turtles?
It's stupid in that, too.
Well, yeah, it was dumber. The worst part, that was one of the things I always loved. In the original 1987 series, they do the whole trench coat thing. But then in a later episode, she gets her friend. She's like, I had my friend at the special effects department make up these masks for you. And they're just like they're like these identical, like bald human heads, which are really creepy looking. So you put those on to, yeah, it's like, here's masks so that you look even more human. But like even after they introduce it, they hardly ever use it. But sometimes they use it. So they clearly didn't forget about it, but they just don't use it most of the time. And it's like, what was the point then?
Yeah, well, anyways, issue 5 starts off with him on the boat. He goes out to get some air because he's tired of being cramped up in the cargo hold. He gets discovered by some dudes with harpoons.
I mean, it's a boat.
Yeah, and they don't much like him because they think he's a sea monster, so they attack him. And he gets
freaks here.
Yeah, he fights them, and then he ends up jumping off the boat and getting caught in the tide, and ends up washing ashore in Salem.
Well, basically
Salem.
Anyways, you got a woman and you got her little brother, and then they're like, we gotta kill the woman. She's a witch.
Yeah, she's a witch. We got to kill the witch. So he ends up deciding, I need to protect this woman because she helped him. And she was there when he washed ashore.
He's just that kind of guy. He helps people that need help.
Yeah, so they run around, they get chased by some lynch mobs that want to kill her because she's a witch.
Yeah, and apparently it's the 1800s, but not.
Yeah, and then Swamp Thing ends up falling off a cliff into the ocean again, which gives them a chance to kidnap her and tie her to a stake so they can literally burn her at the stake.
Yeah. No, dude shows up with a straight up farm scythe, slices off Swamp Thing's arm, and then they use fire and they tackle him off the cliff.
Oh yeah,
and he's like, oh gosh, fire.
Oh yeah, and then he finds out that his arm can grow back because like a bit later it's starting to grow back. And that brings me to another question. They're a bit inconsistent, at least in what I've seen so far. How fast does he regenerate? Because in a later issue,
right
he gets
now,
his.
Well, what do you mean by later issue?
Well, in this one, it takes some time. He gets his arm sliced off. Yeah. It takes a good, presumably a couple hours for his arm to fully grow back.
Yeah.
In a later issue, by that I mean probably 10 or 11 or something. He gets his hand sliced off, and it immediately grows back fast enough that he can immediately use it to grab the person. In a sneak attack.
Well, I'll tell you this: it's not an oversight. Swamp Thing is a comic. Well, at least for the original series and the second series, it deals in continual escalation.
Whatever that means. I mean,
this is just the beginning. Well, if I can't talk about it too much, or it would spoil all. Well,
my headcanon explanation was just that the size of the limb that gets cut off is proportional to how long it takes to grow back.
Let's just say that at this point in the narrative, Swamp Thing has not even conceived of the power that he has.
Well, that's exciting to. Yeah. Anyways, oh yeah, so I guess maybe we should talk about how the man that is mainly trying to kill this woman, which I don't even remember what is her.
He's a douche.
Well, but apparently he comes from a long line of douches.
Rebecca Ravenwind was the name.
Ravenwind. But he comes from a long line of douches that all only have one leg, because I guess they have some genetic disorder in their family where they're born with only one leg, and they've decided that this is witchcraft, and it's because of the Ravenwinds.
Yeah. Which, by the way, would be a consistent viewpoint if you lived in the 1800s,
Yeah, so
which they do not.
that totally works if this took place in the time period they're kind of trying to say it does, but
I don't know. You just gotta. It's like whatever.
yeah, it's whatever.
I'm willing to roll with it. It's a gothic horror story. I'm willing to work with that.
Yeah, it's yeah. Anyways,
It's like, anyways, look at my hideous, deformed, one-legged baby. We've got to kill Rebecca. And then Swamp Thing grows his arm back, and then
oh, and then he goes and frees her brother because she's got a little brother. He goes and rips her, gets him out of prison, and then brings him to the trial so that they can save his sister. And then,
actually, they're up on a cliff at this point, about to burn her.
Oh yeah, I guess she's tied to a tree. They're about to set her on fire, and Swamp Thing just like freaking rips the tree out of the earth and moves it aside, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah,
the tree's about to catch fire. I'll just move the tree. Which, yeah, no complaints.
It's like, I can turn the fire over, and then she's like, "I'll use my witchy powers," and she turns everyone into flowers. But then,
because it turns out she totally.
Revealed.
Yeah, well, it turns out there really is some witchcraft involved because there's like a big lightning storm that like they throw a pitchfork at her and it just melts. A big lightning storm and wind, and then all the men just turn into flowers. And then, yeah, go ahead, big plot twist.
Yeah, it turns out Timothy is actually the magic one, and that Rebecca's just his familiar.
Yeah, Timothy is his her little brother. He ends up doing that, but I'm going to read a line that just is hilarious to me.
Right.
See, I told you. Let's see. I told you everything would be fine. Where is it? Oh yeah, here we go. Well, I'm not, this is Rebecca talking about how she's not a witch. Well, I'm not, I didn't lie to you. The power's not mine. It's Timothy. I'm what you would call his familiar, the object he focuses his power through. He's so harmless, I don't really mind it. He just turned a bunch of men into flowers. There's nothing harmless about this guy.
Yeah, but he only conjures up flowers. The people he turned into flowers were people who were actively trying to kill them.
I'm not saying he was in the wrong, but I'm also saying you can't call him harmless when he literally just turned a mob of human beings into flowers. That's murder. Okay, self-defense, but still. Not harmless. I just thought that line was hilarious.
It's basically harmless. And then, anyways, the twist ending, it's revealed that Alec and Linda Holland are somewhere, and it's like, what?
Oh, yeah.
That'll be explained in the next issue.
Yeah, well, see, when I first read that, I totally just read it as a flashback and thought it was just out of nowhere.
You didn't read Countless Miles Away?
Yeah, well, I did read that, and then I got confused. I was like, oh, well, this must just be like some weird flashback. But no, it's not a flashback. It ties into issue number 6. Also, we're coming up on the 1 hour mark. Do you think maybe we should make this a 2-parter?
What, are you seriously? This is a 2-parter now?
It's starting to be. I mean, we're not even halfway through the issues, and we're already at 57 minutes. Do you think maybe we should wrap up here and pick up in part 2?
I guess we could just finish talking about issue 6, and then we'll be halfway through.
I'd say we can. Okay, fine. One more issue, and then we'll make it a 2-parter.
This is going to be a long series, I can already tell.
And I can't wait. All right. Issue 6, A Clockwork Horror. And I honestly love this one, but it's like probably the most out of left field of any of the issues I've read so far. No, the time travel one is probably way more out of left field.
Out of these 13 issues, you think this one's the most left field?
No, I take that back. It's the one with the hell gem or whatever they call it. We'll get to that.
Hey, guess what? That's not even the first time he time travels.
Why? That doesn't surprise me.
Well, actually, wait. It is the first time he time travels.
Not the only time.
It'll happen again.
That doesn't surprise me in the least. So yeah, this issue deals with robots, which, I love me a good story about robots. So
yeah.
Anyways, it starts off with Matt Cable in his office, and they basically say, well, since you lost the Swamp Thing, we're giving you, you're too personally involved in this case. We're giving you a new case. We're going to send you to go investigate this town in Vermont where nobody is paying their taxes. And what's hilarious is that, coincidentally, Swamp Thing just ends up there anyways. So even when Matt Cable isn't hunting Swamp Thing, he's still hunting Swamp Thing. Just because the universe wants him to. But yeah, they send Matt Cable there to figure out what's going on.
And Abby comes with him.
Yeah, and Swamp Thing falls off of a truck because it hits a pot. He was like hiding in a box of lettuce, apparently. Which, that's hilarious. I never noticed that. Because he would blend right into a box of lettuce. But yeah, they hit a pothole. He falls out, tumbles off a cliff, and lands at the foot of... Who is it, Mingus?
Linda Holland. What?
Linda Holland, yep, his wife.
But she is dead for 5 issues now.
Which, I mean, I already spoiled that there's robots in this book, so you can probably immediately see where that's going. But
Well, apparently you were just confused. You thought it was a flashback.
well, in the last issue, I thought it was a flashback. This one, I never connected the dots. But in this one, I knew that was like, okay, well, he's either having a vision or there was like some weird. Well, then I remembered it's the name of the story is A Clockwork Horror, so my mind immediately went, well, she's some kind of robot, but that's weird.
And then meanwhile, Mr. E is like, good thing we've got that canine transmitter.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Like, this doesn't really ever tie into anything, but he's just sitting there listening, petting his monkey, which is totally not a euphemism.
It does tie in. This is how this guy finds them later, and then the next issue, which has Batman in it.
No, I guess you're right. Yeah, so it kind of ties in, but still, it took a long time for that to pay off, as much as they teased it.
I love that you consider 7 issues to be a long time. It's
like
what
long time.
What kind of comics have you been reading?
Well, that's 7 months in actual publishing time. That's basically teasing 7 issues worth of teasing for something that's just a one-off, basically, when it does get a payoff.
My guy, you know nothing of decompression.
But anyways.
You read the IDW's Ninja Turtle comics. Do you know how long it takes anything to happen in that comic? It sucks now, by the way. I'm waiting for it to stop sucking. But here, I'll just give you one example. There are 2 characters.
Wait, should we do a spoiler tag for this one?
No, I'm not giving any spoilers in this one. There's 2 characters who are introduced in a there's 2 characters who are introduced in one issue, and then it basically comes with the explicit hint of it's something that makes, if you're a fan of Ninja Turtles, you know exactly who later. It takes a full 23 issues for the thing to finally happen. So
you cut out there a little bit, but I think what you said is that there's some character where if you're a fan of Ninja Turtles, you know exactly what's going to happen, but it takes 20 issues for that to happen.
It takes 23 issues for them to finally do it. It's a very slow burn kind of comic.
Well,
it's really good for the first 100 issues, and then a new writer took over and did the same thing that every person does these days with all new things that's pissing me off.
Anyways,
robots.
Maybe once we finish Swamp Thing, that'll be our next retrospective we go on.
Oh, I don't know if Swamp Thing is long. Whatever. Robots.
Anyways, man. So what happens next? Basically, it cuts back to Swamp Thing. He's in a field with his wife Linda, and who shows up?
Alucard.
Yeah, human version of him.
And it's like, what? But I'm Alucard, and I'm a swamp man. This dude.
Yeah, we're basically just fully into an episode of Twilight Zone here. But he follows him back to a town. There's a little town of people. There's a mayor named Mayor Clockman, which is just right on the nose. And
he's German.
He's German for some reason.
Because it's the accent.
Yeah,
that's why.
Well, yeah, basically he just goes. He doesn't even leave it a mystery. He just goes outright and tells them, "Yeah, I built this whole town is robots. I built robots. They're all sentient. They all are basically human in all ways, but physical. How did I do it? Never comes up. Not an issue."
Well, does it need to? He builds robots. I don't need to know.
I'm just saying, in any other story, the fact that he could build. I mean, I guess any other time the story was written, the idea that he could build robots that are identical to humans would be a bigger deal than it is.
I mean, it's the DC universe. It's not that.
It's probably not the first. Probably not the first time this has happened in the DC universe. But
and he's like, I look at obituaries and I build robots based on who's dead.
Yeah, see, that's the part that weirded me out. Is like, so he just saw these pictures of Alec and Linda Holland, and he built robot copies of them. And they kind of, I guess we don't spend a whole lot of time with them, so we don't know for sure. But it's kind of implied that they act just like the real Alec and Linda did.
Which I don't know how he'd be able to know that.
Well, I guess the obituary would have some information about them, but not enough to really. I don't know. Like I said, maybe if we spent more time with the characters, the cracks would have started to show. But that's entirely beside the point. Basically, the mayor goes out into the town. All his townsfolk are waiting for him. They're all happy to see him and stuff. And then the conclave shows up, right? Or wait, no, first Matt Cable shows up with Abigail and somehow just misses seeing Swamp Thing.
Yeah, and then he goes and talks with Linda and is getting his emotions messed with because he's like, hey, look, my wife. And it's, no, wait, robot. Yeah. Anyways, I'm sad again.
Yeah, now let's go be sad. And then helicopters show up and kidnap Abigail and Cable. And Mr. E has a robot that he uses to, uses a robot to fight Swamp Thing in a fight scene that's pretty cool, actually.
And then he brings some dudes in red jumpsuits.
Which those jumpsuits are just amazing. They look like the Phantom without his domino mask.
Yeah, but red.
but red.
And he shoots Matt Cable, and they come in with their weird high concept robot. There's two types of robots. You got the androids, which everyone else is, and then you have this one, which is like, look, it's a sci-fi robot. It's got a glass dome head with ears.
Yeah, super over designed, but it's still pretty cool looking.
And then they kill the Alec Holland robot.
Oh yeah, Alec Holland gets completely murked.
And then the Lindo robot, and then Swamp Thing over here is like, oh my gosh, this again. Why?
Which is funny. He just got over saying that, no, this isn't my wife. She's just a robot, and then goes into this whole, I can't believe I just lost Linda again, and goes into a rampage.
I mean, how would you feel if you saw the spitting of your image of your wife's gun down in front of you again after that had already happened?
I mean, it would be pretty disturbing, but for him to go all out and say, I can't believe I lost you for a second time, it's like, dude, you just like accepted the fact that you didn't have her back, and now you're saying you lost her.
It's an emotion thing. You can't
always
control it.
I get what they were going for. But anyways, he punches the robot in the face, and then the robot punches him in the face, and then they fight, and he rips its arm off.
The way this is drawn is kind of funny.
A little bit.
If you took out the speech bubbles, they're just standing there, and then the piston just shoots out and just in the face.
Yeah, hits him in the face.
Just imagine, take those two panels, but take out the speech bubbles. They're just standing there.
It's pretty good. Looks like slow motion based. It's like slow-mo version of a comic. But yeah, then what happens? Swamp Thing beats him up, and then he starts getting shot, and the mayor man's like, no, there's been enough violence, and he jumps in front of Swamp Thing to take the bullets, and dies.
And then the robots get really pissed, and
they establish earlier
brutally murder.
Yeah, they established earlier the robots can't feel hatred. He basically built them without humanity's vices, so like no hatred, none of that. But when they see their creator get killed, they learn how to hate because they just straight up rip this guy apart. It's actually pretty terrifying.
Yeah. And while it's happening, they're getting all their stuff, all the artificial skin torn off them, so they look like robo-skeleton Terminators.
Yeah.
And then they start coloring this panels red.
Well, it's because they all burst into flames.
Yep.
That's why they turned red. So yeah, those few comics are just straight out of like a Terminator comic. It's pretty metal.
Yep. And then he gets on the train, and he's like, well, I get the robot man wanted to have me go to Gotham, so I guess I'll go to Gotham City.
Well, no, the robot man said he was taking Cable and Abigail to Gotham, and so that's where Swamp Thing, he hops on a train to Gotham and says, that's where I'm going, and that's where the issue concludes.
Yeah, he's like, that's where he wanted to send me, and that's where he probably sent Matt Cable.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, we're going to find Cable, and we're going to... Wait. Oh, that's right. He got kidnapped by the Conclave, and he's like, I'm going to go find those people and beat the crap out of them.
Yeah, he's going to go save Matt Cable again. Yeah. And then Matt Cable's still going to be ungrateful and try to kill him.
At this point in the story, Swamp Thing is basically just a really strong dude made of plant. His solution to most problems is to punch them because he can't do a lot else yet.
All right. Well, we're at the 1 hour and 8 minute mark. I think this is a good place to go ahead and cut it and make a two-parter.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I didn't think that we'd come to this, but I guess that's what it is.
Well, I mean, we can keep recording. We'll just make it 2 videos.
Do we have time to do that?
I have time. Do you have time?
Well,
we'll talk off mic. Anyways,
maybe.
This is the end of part 1 of the Swamp Thing retrospective.
Yes, the end of part 1 of like 35 at this rate.
Yeah. Cue the Manic Polka.
Well, you have to cue it. You've got the thing.
It's playing right now.
Oh, is it playing?
It's playing.
Okay. So yeah, I guess, thank you for joining all of us. If you want to send a letter, you can find us at Real Placeholder Podcast Official at gmail.com. Send us the letters. We won't be reading any for these first couple episodes because from our perspective, none of this is real yet.
Yeah, maybe I should have the volume here. I'm gonna turn here. Keep talking. I just turned the volume down. I'm sure they could.
How loud was it?
Not too bad. I'm sure they could hear you. But
whatever.
Just reiterate. Email address in the description. Feel free to send us an email. Tell us to get a real job.
Yeah. Anyways, you can start fading it out now. It's over.
Bye.